You ever notice how meme coins are like, well, one minute they're basically nothing, and the next they've just gone totally crazy, like shot up in price.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
this wild ride.
you know what happens next.
Yeah, usually not pretty.
Yeah, exactly. It's like trying to grab smoke, you know?
It really is, yeah.
Today we're going to try to like pull back the curtain a little bit and look at how you might be able to spot some of the moves in these markets that maybe aren't so, uh, organic or whatever you'd want to call it.
Right, yeah, like how to tell what's really driving those price swings.
Exactly. And we've got a really fascinating article that you sent over. It's called How to Spot Manipulative Market Moves by Analyzing Liquidity Pools.
Yeah, that one's a real eye-opener.
And it all came out of this trader's experience with this meme coin, Grok coin, which we're going to get into.
Yeah, Grok coin, that's quite a story.
But the whole point of our deep dive today is to understand how these liquidity pools work.
Right.
Because they're basically like the fuel for trading on decentralized exchanges. And the article is saying that if you understand how those pools work, you can actually start to see manipulation happening maybe even before it happens.
Yeah, you can get some pretty strong signals from them.
So for anyone listening who's maybe a little newer to DeFi.
Decentralized finance?
Yeah, thanks. Could you break down what these liquidity pools actually are on DXs?
Sure. So basically, imagine a liquidity pool as like a big pot of two different cryptocurrencies.
Okay.
These pots live on decentralized exchanges, and they let you trade one crypto for another,
Okay.
but without needing an order book.
Oh, right. Because on a regular exchange.
Yeah, on like a centralized exchange, you'd have an order book where you've got to have a buyer and a seller who want to trade at the exact same price.
Right.
But with these pools, you're just swapping directly with whatever assets are in that pool.
Gotcha. So instead of a direct trade with another person, you're trading with this pool of tokens.
Yeah, exactly.
And the article suggests that we can watch how these pools change, and that'll give us clues about manipulation.
Yeah, and the author of the article, Ave AI, they had this really interesting experience with this Grok coin, meme coin.
Yeah, that was a crazy story.
They totally missed the first big price jump, but then they noticed something that made them think it was going to surge again.
What was it that stood out to you about that?
Well, the main thing was they saw this huge withdrawal of liquidity from the biggest Grok coin pool on this exchange called Mioterra.
Yeah, and it was like a ton of money, right?
Yeah, over $500,000 USDT.
That's wild. And this was after the initial hype had already died down a bit, right?
Exactly. Like things had calmed down, and then boom, this big withdrawal.
So it seems like it was planned, right?
It does seem that way, right? Like somebody knew something was about to happen.
And usually you wouldn't see a withdrawal that big, right?
No, not typically it's not your everyday kind of thing.
Right. So this was like a signal flare.
Pretty much, yeah. And for Ave AI, it was a signal that the price was probably going to go up again.
Like they were making room for it.
Yeah, almost like clearing a path for the price to move up more easily.
And speaking of AI, the article also talks about their platform, which actually lets you see all this stuff happening in these pools.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You can see who's adding and removing liquidity, how much they're moving, even how trades are getting routed through the system.
So it's like you've got X-ray vision into the market.
Exactly. You can see what's really going on under the hood.
That's so cool. And the article goes on to explain that even though these markets seem really complicated,
Right.
a lot of these price movements can actually be understood with some pretty basic math.
Yeah, it all comes down to the amounts of each token in the liquidity pool.
Okay, so they lay out this simplified model using this made-up token called meme, right?
Yeah, meme token launched on this fictional exchange called Pump Fun.
Right. So how do they set up this model?
So we start with a total supply of 1 billion meme tokens.
Okay, 1 billion.
And the initial liquidity pool pairs 200 million of those meme with 79 SOL.
SOL, that's Solana, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and they're assuming one SOL is worth $150 for this model.
Right, so that gives us our starting point to see how the price of meme changes based on how much of each token is in the pool.
Okay, so far so good. But then they bring in this concept called the constant product formula.
Yeah, that's the key to it all.
Can you break down what that means? Because it sounds kind of abstract.
So basically it means that for any given liquidity pool, if you multiply the quantity of the two tokens together, that number tends to stay the same, at least in the short term, before anyone adds or removes more liquidity.
Okay.
It's like saying the total value locked in the pool stays roughly constant.
So in their example, that would be 200 million meme times 79 SOL equals some constant number.
Exactly.
Okay.
And as traders buy meme, the amount of meme in the pool goes down, right?
Right, because they're taking it out.
Exactly, and the amount of SOL goes up.
Because they're putting SOL in to buy the meme.
Right, but the product of those two numbers, that should ideally stay the same.
So the pool is like trying to maintain a balance.
It's constantly rebalancing to try and keep that constant product.
And that's how the price of the token gets determined.
Right, because if suddenly a lot of people want to buy meme,
Right.
the price has to go up to keep that constant product balance.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get... So with this constant product idea in mind, they walk through a bunch of different scenarios.
Yeah, they want to show you how this plays out in different situations.
The first one is like, okay, what would it take to push this meme token to a $100 million market cap if nobody touches the initial liquidity?
Right, so they're saying imagine no one's adding or removing any significant liquidity from that starting pool.
So what did they find out?
Well, the crazy thing is it doesn't take as much money as you might think to pump it up to a $100 million market cap.
Really?
Yeah, their calculations show that you'd only need to add about 3,166 SOL to the pool.
And at $150 a SOL, that's...
About $475,000.
Wow. So you're telling me that less than $500,000 could potentially create a $100 million meme coin?
That's what their model suggests, yeah.
It's kind of scary when you think about it.
It is, yeah. It shows you how much perceived value can be created with a relatively small amount of money, especially in this meme coin space where things are so volatile.
Right, where hype plays such a big role.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's scenario one, but then they take it a step further in the next scenario,
Yeah.
and they're like, okay, what if you wanted to pump it up even higher?
Yeah, they want to see how the cost changes if you're aiming for a bigger market cap.
Right, so instead of 100 million, what if you wanted to hit like 200 million or 300 million?
Right, so they introduced this variable M, which represents how many times bigger you want the market cap to be compared to that initial 100 million.
Gotcha. So if M is 2, you're aiming for a 200 million market cap.
Exactly.
Okay, so what happens to the cost when you start increasing M?
Well, the interesting thing is it doesn't go up at the same rate.
So it's not like if you double M, you double the cost.
No, it's more like a curve.
Okay.
Their formula shows that the cost goes up roughly proportional to the square root of M.
The square root?
Yeah, so let's say M is 3, meaning we want to hit a $300 million market cap.
Okay.
The cost doesn't triple. It only goes up by the square root of 3, which is like 1.7.
Okay, so it's still getting more expensive.
Right. It definitely gets more expensive to pump it higher. But the point is, it's not impossible.
Right, like if someone was really determined and they had enough of the token early on,
Yeah, they could potentially orchestrate some pretty big pumps.
like to 300 million, 400 million even.
Potentially, yeah. And it might not even cost them $2 million.
That's insane.
Yeah, it really highlights how much power early movers have in this space.
And how much risk there is for people who buy in later.
Exactly. The people who get in early can make huge profits while everyone else is left holding the bag.
So we've got to be careful out there, folks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do your research, be aware of the risks.
Okay, so that's 2 scenarios down. Now the third one looks at what happens if you change the initial liquidity.
Right. What if you start with a bigger pool?
Yeah, so how does that affect things?
Well, what they found is that if you increase the initial liquidity pool size, the cost to manipulate the price also goes up.
Makes sense. The bigger the pool, the harder it is to move.
Right. And what's interesting is that it goes up proportionally.
So if you double the initial liquidity, you double the cost.
Exactly.
Huh. So thinking back to that Grok coin example,
Yeah.
the big withdrawal of liquidity,
Right.
that might have actually made it cheaper for whoever was behind it to pump the price up again later.
That's what the article suggests. Yeah, it's like they were intentionally reducing the pool size to make it easier to manipulate.
So that's another red flag to watch out for.
Yeah, if you see a sudden big drop in liquidity, especially early on in a coin's life,
Right.
that could be a sign that someone's getting ready to pump it.
Okay, so we've talked about what happens before a pump.
Right, setting the stage.
Now, the last scenario they look at is what happens after a pump.
Right after the price has already been artificially inflated.
So they're imagining that the meme token has already been pumped up to that $100 million market cap.
Yeah.
And then someone comes along and adds a ton of meme tokens to the pool.
Right, but they don't add any SOL.
So it's like they're dumping their tokens on the market.
Yeah, that's a classic dump signal.
And what happens to the price when that happens?
It crashes.
Of course.
Yeah, the formula shows that the new price is basically the original price divided by 1 plus however many times more meme they added.
So if they doubled the amount of meme in the pool, the price gets cut in half.
Pretty much, yeah, they're flooding the market with supply, and that drives the price way down.
And this is how the manipulators cash out, right?
Exactly. They pump the price up, get everyone excited, and then dump their tokens on the market, leaving everyone else holding worthless bags.
So if you see a huge spike in the amount of tokens in the pool without a corresponding increase in the other currency,
Run.
yeah, that's a pretty clear sign to get out.
You don't want to be the last one holding the bag.
Okay, so this model they've laid out, it's really helpful for understanding how these pumps and dumps work.
Yeah, it gives you a framework to think about it.
But the article also mentions that the real world is a lot more complex.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like there are other things going on that can affect the price.
Definitely.
What are some of those other factors?
Well, for one thing, there's arbitrage.
Right, where people take advantage of price differences between different exchanges.
Exactly. Like if meme is trading for a higher price on one exchange than another,
Right.
someone can buy it on the cheaper exchange and sell it on the more expensive one for a profit.
So that can affect the price too.
Yeah, it can definitely move the price around.
And then there are also these trading bots.
Oh, yeah, those things are crazy.
They can execute trades super fast, right?
Yeah, in milliseconds.
So they can basically front-run regular traders.
Yeah, and they can also be used to manipulate the price.
And then there's this thing called MEV.
Minor extractable value.
Yeah, I've heard of that, but I don't really understand it.
So basically, it's where the people who validate transactions on the blockchain,
The miners.
yeah, the miners, they can actually reorder the transactions within a block. Yeah, and they can do this to make a profit.
How does that work?
So imagine a miner sees a big transaction coming through that's going to buy a bunch of meme.
Okay.
They know that's going to push the price up, right?
Right.
So they can insert their own transaction ahead of it to buy some meme first.
So they're front-running the big buyer.
Exactly. And then they can sell their meme after the price goes up and make a profit.
That's messed up.
It is, yeah. It's a controversial issue in the crypto space.
So basically what you're saying is that the sudden price spikes we see with meme coins,
Right.
they might not always be just because of hype.
Exactly. There could be other forces at play.
Like people manipulating the liquidity pools.
Yeah. And maybe even using these more advanced techniques like
Yeah.
MEV.
So it's not always as simple as it looks.
No, it's a jungle out there.
So we need to be extra careful.
Absolutely.
But even though liquidity pools aren't the whole story,
Right.
they're still a really important piece of the puzzle.
Definitely. Especially if you're into trading meme coins.
Yeah, like if you're trying to make short-term trades,
Right.
especially with coins that have market caps over $1 million.
Yeah, those are the ones that are most likely to be manipulated.
So it's worth paying attention to what's happening in those pools.
Absolutely. It can give you a real edge.
And the article specifically recommends the Av AI platform for doing this kind of analysis.
Yeah, they've got all the tools you need to track liquidity pool changes and spot potential manipulation.
So if you're serious about trading these kinds of assets,
It's a good idea to have a tool like that in your arsenal.
it's all about having information, right?
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
So by understanding how these liquidity pools work,
Right.
you can make better decisions.
And hopefully avoid getting caught in a pump and dump.
Exactly. Nobody wants to be left holding the bag.
Yeah.
So to sum it all up, this deep dive into the Av AI article has really shown us how important liquidity pools are.
Yeah, they're not just some abstract concept.
Right. They're actually the driving force behind a lot of the price action we see in the crypto markets.
Especially in the meme coin world.
Yeah, where things move so fast.
It's all about understanding the mechanics.
Exactly. Once you see how it works, you can start to look at those crazy pumps and dumps in a whole new light.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many of those were actually planned all along.
Right? Like maybe that pump wasn't just random hype.
Maybe someone who's pulling the strings behind the scenes.
And this whole idea of manipulating liquidity
Yeah.
makes you think about other things that might be going on that we don't even know about.
Right, like what other on-chain activity could be worth looking into?
It's like a whole new world of analysis.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's kind of scary, but also exciting.
Yeah, there's always something new to learn in this space.
Well, I've definitely learned a lot today.
Me too.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
My pleasure.
And thanks to everyone listening.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you next time on the deep dive.
Keep exploring and keep questioning everything.
Exactly. Don't just take things at face value.